So we're going to get this afternoon going, and I will just introduce somebody who really doesn't need much introduction, but my illustrious boss, Dr. Lou Weiner, who's the Lombardi Cancer Center director, who will then start our introduction chain going.
Thanks, Jeff. I just want to start off by thanking you and everyone who put together this great symposium. It's really wonderful. And a special thanks to the Children's Cancer Foundation, which has really been an amazing supporter of work done by Jeff, Ikut, and many others at Georgetown Lombardi over the years. And it's really a testament to the power of passionate individual responses to making a big difference in the world. And speaking of that, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to introduce Nancy Goodman. Now, I've known Nancy for a fairly long time. I've never heard her speak, but I've sat on probably 10,000 panels with her over the years. And Nancy has a story as a parent of a child who suffered and lost a battle with medulloblastoma, was it? Yeah. But has transformed that loss into really an extraordinary impact on how we develop drugs and how we actually harness the regulatory apparatus in order to make sure that we do what we have to do in order to take care of kids with cancer. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Nancy, and thank you for all you do. I think you got that.
Do I have this? Can you hear me out? Thank you so much, Lou, and thank you to Children's Foundation, Cancer Foundation, for inviting me here to speak, to Jeff Turetsky and to Tasha Musella for inviting me here to speak. So what I'd like to talk about today is my experience as a mother who lost a child with cancer. And I want to make a special pitch here to the researchers and the physician scientists in the room. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I want to give you more reasons to stay in the game and to stay focused on pediatric cancer. I think you've heard, and you will hear, both before me and after me, how compelling our stories are, how desperate a plight it feels like for parents whose kids are sick or who lose their kids. After me, you'll hear from an incredibly beautiful young woman, Eileen, who's thriving, but still the emotional impact of, we all know we care about kids. And we know how desperate the situation is, and we know what the lack of pediatric cancer research there is and what the challenges are. What I want to talk about today is what the opportunities are and what we in the advocacy community are also doing and working on to support you as researchers and why you should stay in the game. And I want to talk about 3 programs that I've put together through Kids vs. Cancer. There are more programs as well, but just to give you a sense of what the opportunity is. So Kids vs. Cancer, I'm a lawyer, and Kids vs. Cancer focuses on what we can do to make research more effective. We have, in particular, 3 programs that we have put together or are putting together. The first is the Creating Hope Act. And the Creating Hope Act creates an incentive for companies to develop drugs for kids with rare diseases. What that means for you is it creates opportunities to commercialize your insights so that you really can get them to market. The way the Creating Hope Act works, for those of you who may not know, is that it provides an investigator or a sponsor who has developed a pediatric rare disease drug and who gets this drug approved by the FDA. It gives the sponsor an opportunity to receive a voucher from the FDA. With the voucher comes rights to faster FDA review on any other drug, and the voucher is fully transferable. We got this law approved, we wrote the law, and it was passed in 2012. And since then, we've had 9 vouchers created, and several have sold. The last one sold for $350 million. And we've created $1 billion of value. So we're hoping that the value of these vouchers really creates a mechanism for Jeff and for others of you to commercialize your insights. Now, I realize that winning at the end still makes it hard to finance your drug development process all the way through. And for that, our program has what's called a designation process. And the way that works is that as soon as your drug would qualify for an orphan designation, and that could be preclinical or phase 1, very early on, you can receive a designation from the FDA, and what that says is that if your drug is designated as on track for receiving a voucher because it qualifies, then if your drug is approved, your drug will merit a voucher. With the designation, venture capitalists and private investors can use that information to assess a higher valuation for your company. And so we hope that that will be part of your financial strategy. So the Creating Hope Act was passed in 2012. It has various sunset provisions, and we're now working on permanent reauthorization, and we are optimistic. I'll do a little pitch here. I would welcome all of your support in getting that done, but I believe that in the next 12 months we will be successful. So that's the first step, and again, the opportunity there is to develop drugs expressly for kids with cancer. Now, as you all know, there's a very large and robust pipeline of adult cancer drugs. There are about 900 drugs in the adult cancer pipeline. And what can we do to access investigational drugs that could potentially be interesting to you, both for preclinical work as well as with your kids? In that area, we are now working on a new bill called the Kids Innovative Drug Act, and we hope this bill will be introduced this summer or even earlier. And what the KIDS Act says is that if a company is developing an adult cancer-targeted therapy, and if the molecular target is relevant for a pediatric population, which has cancer, then the company has certain obligations to undertake pediatric studies. And what this means for you as researchers is that, because these companies, as you know, they don't have pediatric expertise, and frankly, they don't have pediatric interest. That's not their focus of their efforts. Our hope is that they will work with you. They will be more willing to share their investigational products with you for preclinical work. And should you decide to undertake clinical research with them, they will fund the research, because they will be, in funding the research, they will be fulfilling their regulatory obligations. So again, where we are in the process for the KIDS Act is we hope to introduce it soon, and we believe our goal is passage in the summer of 2017, and we are very optimistic. And for that as well, I ask all of you to help out. We are always looking for expressions of political support. It really means a lot to members of Congress. It credentializes us, and it makes them understand how important it is. They don't understand that pediatric clinical research is to such a great extent post-market research for drugs, and they don't understand the limitations that you all have in accessing investigational drugs. And the third project we're working on is compassionate use. So we understand that oftentimes there may be cases in which you've got a kid, and through your efforts to identify new actionable targets, maybe there is a drug that would be interesting for this child. And we understand how few investigational drugs really are open for pediatric clinical research. So in those cases, what we've done in that case is we launched a program in April called the Compassionate Use Navigator. And the way that it works is a family or a physician can come to us, and we have a staff who are qualified to work with the physician to draft the documentation to the sponsor, the manufacturer requesting the drug, to the FDA to request authorization from the FDA, and to the IRB. And we will provide the physician as much staffing as she or he needs to get it done. So we hope that with this process, we will accomplish 3 goals. One is give clinicians more reasons to try interesting drugs on their kids. Second is we will be collecting data on their efforts to access these drugs. We realize how challenging it is, and we'll be using this data to press for future policy reforms. And third, we hope by collecting this data to identify extreme responders who we could then inform the research community about, and for whom there would potentially be new directions for pediatric research. So this program is ongoing. It's free of charge. And I also do want to note that Kids vs. Cancer, the organization I started, does not accept industry funding, so there is no potential for conflict of interest here. And And we invite all of you to please take advantage of this opportunity, and also for families who may be here, if you come across patients or other families whose kids are at the point where they really need to try something creative and investigational, we are happy to work with those families and their physicians. So I want to stop here. Those are the 3 programs we've worked on at Kids v. Cancer, the organization I started. There are so many more things we can do, and we are so grateful for all of the efforts of all of you. We really are changing the landscape of pediatric cancer research, and my request is hang in there. I believe we can work with you to access investigational drugs, to access additional capital for investigational drugs, to give you opportunities to commercialize the drugs. And then as you identify other impediments to your research, we want to work with you to remove those impediments as well. So thank you very much for all you do. That's my talk. I don't know if I have a couple minutes for questions, or is that it? I can do 1 or 2 questions if anyone has one, or you're also welcome to just corral me afterward. Yes. So compassionate use, this is great. So compassionate use is not a state-specific program. It is a federal program. If you have a kid who has, and you think there's a reason you may want to give the kid an unapproved drug, you need 3 things. You need cooperation and consent by the company. You need authorization by the FDA, and you need approval by your hospital's IRB. So the state laws the reason you probably are referring to state law is that there are these right to try laws which are sweeping the country, and frankly, they are analytically inconsequential to the analysis. So we're very thankful that the NCI will be starting a pediatric cancer match trial, and I don't know when that will be opening. The hope is it would be opening in the fall. And my understanding is it will be approved drugs only. And NCI CTEP is currently working with sponsors to request that they agree to include their drug in the match trial. I do also want to note that there are numerous other precision medicine trials that are being developed in the pediatric cancer community. And there are many hospitals now that have sequencing and even next-gen sequencing as standard of care. And on our Compassionate Use Navigator, we're going to be providing a list of those opportunities. And many of those options would also give clinicians, maybe you folks wouldn't need it so much, but give clinicians some more guidance as to how to select investigational drugs for their patients. For example, by putting your kid in some program that has next-gen sequencing and then has a tumor board to identify, to review some of the ideas that may come out of the sequencing exercise. Good to meet you, Jeff.
Have you thought about ways to incentivize the company to buy drugs for compassionate use? One of the limitations that companies have done
No. Yep. No, the company is the #1 challenge, and we've explored all sorts of options. Politically, it's a very heavy lift to do. You can't touch exclusivity. You can't, or priority review vouchers, it's just not possible. On our advice, so we participated in the Save Josh campaign, and we have many of the leaders, and so to be perfectly honest, we haven't ruled out the fact that we would do it again, and not that that's the purpose of our program. But we hope that companies will take a look at what we're doing, and we hope that on the margins, one, there'll be some accountability because we're tracking the data, so we can bring it back. And #2, they know that we are the team that did it once. We could do it again. And that's as much incentive as we have for now. And then maybe the third incentive is we make it less burdensome for you, so you're at least more willing to, hopefully, to try to get some compassionate use applications going.